Now, Marxism looks at knowledge production, looks at industrial production, who controls the means of production, and then you define who's the capitalist and who's the proletariat and bourgeois and so on. But what I'm doing is a similar methodology, looking at knowledge as an industrial process, saying who controls knowledge production. And what I'm finding is that there are some institutional processes which encourage certain theories and methods to be used, and these theories and methods result in certain conclusions, the truths, and these in fact perpetuate the institutional processes, and these tend to be controlled by a dominant culture. Now, if you look at where the money comes from, the US government has a program called Title VI, which was enacted as an act of US Congress in the Cold War to study certain non-Western areas. South Asia became one of them. And this funding is going to a whole lot of colleges, and they organize many things. There's also indirect funding via private foundations, and also some collaborations which are kind of unofficial collaborations with church groups when it comes to foreign issues. There are Christian seminaries. It's amazing. Right near where I live is one of the most powerful Christian seminaries, the Princeton Theological Seminary. And they have about a dozen scholars on the faculty who study Hinduism. It's amazing. There's a guy who studied Vaishnavism, there's another guy who studied some particular text, there's someone else, and you wonder why are they doing it. And when you get to know them and interact with them, in the corporate world, this would be called competitive research. This is what it would be called. You work in a company, you have a lot of people who study another company, their products and their operations, their activities. And these people are very deeply versed. They come and they spend 20, 30 years, they get credentials in India, they study with Pandits, they live here like Indians. That is their purpose in life. They are very hard working. They work in the hinterlands, in the villages. It's not some desk job, they do a lot of field work. So they have fairly deep resources in the teaching of Indian religions in the United States. Western secular universities, the Ivy Leagues on down, study India a lot. They have departments. It's interesting, India doesn't have India studies. Western controlled human rights groups, they are into studying India. Foreign funded Indian NGOs serve as data hunter gatherers. So you can be a hunter gatherer in charge of looking for a sati somewhere. You go into Rajasthan, if you find one, you quickly report and to the next level up, and if he validates it, it goes to somebody who knows how to write polished English, and finally it's ended up in a foreign source, and you may be invited. You may have hit a big jackpot. Or if you're not into a big jackpot, more mundane, you can gather data on dowry abuse, or you can gather data on something of interest. And these are hunter-gatherers, data hunter-gatherers in the hinterlands of the third world. And there's a whole pyramid structure supplying data to the theory makers. The theory makers come from the first world, and the third world people fill in the data. Marginalized this was my role as a diaspora leader, bringing awareness to the Indian diaspora that our kids are being taught all kinds of stuff when they leave home, and we don't even know what they're being taught. So the government of India is nowhere to be seen. You try talking to an embassy or a consulate, and they'll say, "Arey, we're not supposed to. We don't know. We're not even sure what they're supposed to do." Indian language scholars are marginalized. It's pretty much an English language game, unfortunately. So you have to already have crossed a certain threshold of alienation from nativity, from your indigenous culture, and be able to write good English, write in a certain style of English to be even considered a scholar. And truly independent voices, for example, Dr. Lokesh Chandra sitting right here, and many others that we've had the pleasure of working with, you find that they are not adequately represented. Their works are not what's read and studied. You'll be quite surprised at the names of who are supposed to be the experts on our tradition. Most of those names the average Indian would never have heard of.